The smell of expensive cologne and quiet judgment hung thick in the air at La Maison, my father's favorite high-end restaurant. Everything about the place screamed wealth: white tablecloths, polished silverware, and a host who greeted guests by name. It was exactly the kind of place my family loved to show off. It was also the place Dad chose for his 60th birthday dinner, insisting on gathering all of us together, as if we were still one big happy family. I walked in wearing my plain navy blazer, the same one I'd bought on sale from a department store years ago. It wasn't flashy, but it was clean and decent. Still, I felt Amanda's eyes on me before she even said a word. "You could have at least tried to dress up, James," she said, not even bothering to hide the look of disapproval as she smoothed her sleek designer dress. I gave her a small smile and took a sip of water. "It's Dad's birthday. I'm here, that's what matters, right?" Amanda rolled her eyes but didn't answer. She didn't need to. The message was clear: I didn't belong at the table. It had been 5 years since I walked away from our family's investment firm, and 5 years since any of them had taken me seriously. In their eyes, I had thrown away a golden opportunity. What they didn't know, what none of them had bothered to ask, was that I hadn't just left to escape. I'd left to build something of my own, quietly, patiently. Michael showed up last, just like always, but no one minded. He was still the star of the family, the one who had taken my old place at Kingston Investment Partners. He gave Mom a kiss on the cheek, shook Dad's hand, and finally turned to me with a grin that had annoyed me since we were teenagers. Well, if it isn't the night janitor," he said loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "Still mopping floors, little brother?" I met his stare and answered calmly, "Building maintenance supervisor." Didn't matter what I said, they'd already written their version of my story. James, the family dropout, who chose dirty floors over corner offices. Dad cleared his throat awkwardly. "Let's go ahead and order." The waiter came over with menus that felt like they weighed more than my monthly grocery bill. Everything about this place was designed to make people like me feel small, or at least, people they thought I was. I felt Mom's gaze as I studied the prices. She leaned in and said gently, "Order whatever you want, James, it's on us." Michael snickered behind his wine glass. "When isn't it?" I didn't respond. I just nodded and asked for the cheapest pasta on the menu. Not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Because tonight wasn't about the food. Tonight, I was here to watch everything change. The conversation flowed around me like I wasn't even there. Dad talked about the firm's new clients. Amanda bragged about the charity events she'd organized. Michael shared how his new Mercedes had gotten more compliments than any car he'd ever owned. Every now and then, Mom would ask me polite questions about my life, where I was living, what I was doing these days, questions that sounded more like they came from an acquaintance than a parent. Michael cut into his steak and spoke through a mouthful of food. "There's still an opening in the compliance department, you know, if you're done playing around and ready to be serious again." "I'm good," I said, stirring my pasta slowly. "Good?" Amanda laughed. "You live in a tiny apartment and work nights. That's not good, James, that's just giving up." Mom stepped in again, trying to smooth things over. "Maybe you've thought about going back to school. You were so close to finishing your MBA. It's never too late, sweetheart." I almost laughed. They really thought I'd spent the last 5 years stuck in the same place, doing nothing. They had no idea how far I'd come, or what was about to happen. "I've been learning a lot," I said. Michael rolled his eyes. "Sure, learning how to change light bulbs and sweep floors." He didn't know about the meetings I'd had that morning, about the deals that would go public in just a few minutes, or that this very restaurant, La Maison, was now owned by one of my holding companies. "Maybe," I said, taking another bite of pasta. Dad let out a deep sigh, the kind filled with disappointment. "You had so much potential, James, top of your class. You were going to be partner someday. Why throw all that away?" "Building maintenance supervisor," I repeated softly. "Same thing," Michael said. "You clean up after people like us." I looked at the time, 7:58 p.m., just 2 minutes to go. Mom reached out again, patting my hand. "We're only trying to help. You're still part of this family." Then the restaurant's music cut off, the soft jazz faded, replaced by the voice of a news anchor from the TV above the bar. "Breaking news tonight," the anchor said, "in the largest real estate acquisition of the year. A mysterious company named Summit Horizon has revealed ownership of multiple downtown properties, including La Maison Restaurant, the Carson Building, and several high-rise towers under development. I watched my family closely as the screen listed the properties. Michael sat up straight. Amanda's fork froze halfway to her mouth. Dad's face tightened. "Who the hell is Summit Horizon?" Michael muttered, already reaching for his phone. Then the anchor said it. Summit Horizon is led by CEO James Kingston, who reportedly built the multi-billion-dollar empire while working as a building maintenance supervisor. Silence. For the first time all night, no one had anything to say. I put down my fork, wiped my mouth with my napkin, and smiled. "Anyone want dessert?" I asked. "I own the place, so it's on me." Michael's jaw dropped. Amanda looked like she might faint. Dad just stared at me like he didn't recognize the man in front of him. I stood up slowly, straightened my blazer, the same one they once mocked. "I should get going. I've got an early meeting tomorrow. We're closing on another property, actually, one your firm has been trying to buy for months." I walked toward the door, leaving them speechless behind me, but before I left, I paused at the host's stand and handed the maitre d' my card. "The Kingston party's bill is on me," I said loud enough for them to hear. "Make sure they get dessert." After all, I turned and looked back at them one last time. Family takes care of family. Then I walked out into the night, the weight of their judgment finally off my shoulders. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like the disappointment. I felt like the man I had always known I could become. The strength for real power. Amanda shifted in her seat, visibly uncomfortable. "That was a long time ago." "It was only 2 months ago," I said, sliding a new document across the table. "At Sarah's wedding, Michael joked that I was finding myself by doing manual labor. Last Christmas, you said I might qualify for low-income housing, and just last night, you all assumed I couldn't even afford a meal at a restaurant I own." "We were just worried," Mom said gently. I shook my head. "No, you were comfortable thinking I was failing. It made you feel better about where you are." I opened another file, displaying a list of buildings and their current market values. "While you were pitying me, I was learning how real estate really works, not from the top down, but from the ground up. I worked in my buildings, learned how they breathe, and formed bonds with people you'd never even speak to." Michael let out a mocking laugh. "And that's supposed to impress us? Anyone can luck into a few deals." 17 properties, I said calmly, all in prime downtown locations. "As of this morning, the total value of my portfolio is $3.2 billion. I smiled faintly. "And I just bought the Carson building." Michael turned pale. "That's not possible. We've been trying to close that deal for months." "I know," I replied. "I watched your team mess it up. You ignored the building manager like he was invisible. But invisible people see everything. He called me last week to take my offer." Dad leaned forward, eyes sharpening like they did during high-stakes deals. "Son," he said smoothly, "we underestimated you. Let's work together now. Merge your company with ours. Combine strengths." "No." The room went silent. Amanda blinked. "What do you mean, no?" "I mean no to mergers, no to partnerships, and no to any backdoor way of taking over what I've built." "But we're family," Mom said. "Family?" I chuckled. "Yesterday I was the failure you whispered about at events. Today I'm suddenly family." I turned my screen toward them. "Here's today's schedule for the Carson building. Your lease ends in 60 days. I'm not renewing it." Michael jumped to his feet. "You can't. That's been our office for 20 years. "I can, and I am. Think of it as a lesson in treating people with respect." I glanced at my watch. "I have a meeting with the mayor about downtown revitalization. A real one, in person." "James, wait," Dad started, but I was already hitting the disconnect. "Oh, and Michael," I said before the call ended, "clean out your office by the end of the month. Some of us, invisible people, may need to mop the floors." The call ended. I leaned back and exhaled. My assistant's voice came over the intercom. "Sir, the mayor's office is on line 1. I straightened my tie, a tailored one this time. "Put him through. And Sarah, send a gift basket to the Carson Building's maintenance team. They're going to have some irritated neighbors." I picked up the phone and looked at the framed photo on my desk. It was from my first shift as a janitor, mop in hand. Name tag Askew. The man who took that photo, my mentor, taught me more about real estate than any professor ever did. "Sometimes," he told me, "you have to look up from the ground floor to see how high you can build." I had built higher than anyone in my family ever imagined, and I was just getting started. The next 2 weeks went exactly how I expected. My family tried everything they could to undermine me or worm their way in. First came the rumors, quiet gossip at clubs about how a janitor couldn't have made this much money legally. I was reviewing property offers when Sarah knocked and stepped in. "Your sister's downstairs. No appointment." I checked the security cameras. Amanda stood in the lobby, gripping her designer handbag like it was armor. I had told her she could wait in the cafe. "Send her up." When Amanda entered, her eyes darted around my office. She wasn't expecting this. Compared to her firm's space, my office made theirs look cramped. "Nice view," she said, sitting down. "Furniture's a bit basic though." I glanced at the simple desk, identical to the one my old supervisor used. "What do you want, Amanda?" She opened a folder. "I've been going through family records. As the eldest, I might have a claim." "Stop," I said, raising a hand. "Those childhood trusts. I sold my share 5 years ago, used it to buy my first building. You can't claim what I don't own." Her mouth tightened, but it was only $2 million. "Yes, and when you understand real value, that's more than enough." "That's not fair," she said sharply. "We didn't know you had it in you." "That's the issue." I walked to the window. "How's Michael handling the move?" "He's not doing well, Dad either. That building meant everything to them." "No, it was just their comfort zone. They're upset because they lost control." She sighed. "They sent me to negotiate." "Of course, let me guess, they'll stop trashing my name if I lease the building back." Her silence said enough. "Here's what's going to happen. You'll tell them their threats don't work. Then you'll watch me acquire the Wilson portfolio next week. Yes, the one Michael's been chasing for 2 years." Her eyes widened. "How do you know about Wilson?" I smiled. "I own the building where your firm holds its private meetings, and I talk to the janitors. They hear everything." Just then, my phone buzzed. Michael Kingston attempting to access maintenance archives. "Perfect. Amanda, would you like to see something? Follow me." We took my private elevator to the basement. When it opened, Michael was being held by 2 security guards, men I used to mop floors with. "Looking for something?" I asked. Michael looked defiant. "You have to be hiding something. Nobody builds this kind of empire honestly." "You mean through hard work, by understanding how buildings run, by respecting everyone's role?" I turned to the guards. These men started in maintenance. Now they head my security team, because I saw what they could do. "James," Amanda said, "you've made your point. What do you want?" "Nothing," I said. "That's what you've never understood. I chose this path. I mopped floors by choice. I built all this by choice." I looked at Michael. "Please escort him out, and next time he sneaks around, I press charges, family or not." That evening, an email came from Dad. Subject: dinner. "Son, we've been thinking, maybe we were wrong about you. The firm's struggling since we lost the Carson building, and clearly we've fallen behind. I want to have dinner. No business, no deals, just a father trying to understand his son." "Dad." I read the email, remembering all the dinners where they looked through me, not at me. Then I typed, "Dinner's fine, but not at La Maison. Meet me at Joe's Diner, 4th Street. It's where the maintenance crew eats after shift. If you want to understand me, start with understanding them. Come alone. No Michael, no Amanda, no games." James.